We are live. Hello, everyone out there. Welcome. Please pop your name and where you're watching from in the chat, so we know you're there and our tech is functioning. And as soon as we get confirmation, we'll get started. You have chimes.
I do. I have chimes outside of my office, and it's quite lovely.
Oh, that's excellent.
Makes this nice music, it's supposed to be calming in the background.
Soothing.
Yes.
Hello, Shauna, Janet, and Debbie. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our next Facebook Live in support of the Healthy Dog Expo. My guest today is Jen Carter, VP of Operations for Volhard Dog Nutrition. Welcome, Jen.
Hey, thank you so much.
How are you doing?
The opportunity to be here. I'm doing great. I'm with you today. Of course, I'm doing spectacular.
We are having a good time. You're down in Virginia. I'm up here in New York. So we've got the East Coast covered.
We sure do.
We've got Janet way up north and Debbie from Kentucky closer to you.
Nice.
So people are popping on. So today's topic I'm really excited about because we're talking about diversity in your dog's diet and all of the ways that we can improve. Even if someone is just feeding kibble, we can provide some guidance for you to make it more diverse, have more variety, and be better. So Jen, how long have you been with Volhards now?
I've been there just about 5 years. It's been a wonderful experience. I was actually a feeder of Volhard before I actually came to the company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have this thing that, you can't work somewhere that you wouldn't actually use the product that you're trying to sell. So I had a very good experience with Volhard way before Wendy and I had come together because I had a dog with kidney issues. Mm-hmm. And that proliferated into my dog, not eating the prescription diet that the vet wanted him to eat. And I was given a sentence for him, and I was unwilling to accept that as the truth. So I had met Wendy Volhard. We came together and she said, basically, yeah, don't do that. I want you to do this. And, I dove right in because this was a Hail Mary for him.
Right.
And he was about 14 at the time.
Okay.
When he was diagnosed, and was very nauseous in the morning, was very picky and choosy about what he wanted to eat and all those things. And he ate the Volhard diet. And, rescue wasn't even an idea at that point. So we used the AM/PM diet. It was the most tolerable diet. And yeah, nice.
This is the original Volhard diet. I'm sorry, it's backwards. This edition was $7.
Very nice.
Gift from my friend Mary. And on the inside, this is all like
hand typed right there. Yeah.
Totally done on a typewriter. I wanted to see if there was a date on here. I don't think there is.
Maybe not.
Maybe in the back.
Well, I met Wendy, and she changed my world from that point forward. And just to follow up on what I was just saying, with my dog eating Volhard at the time, he lived another 4 years.
That's phenomenal. And that's the longevity that we're all after.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And the odds were stacked against him. So, it's never a time to give up, really. You can go down swinging, and that's what we did. And 4 years is a long time to have with your dog that is not promised, right?
That conventional medicine has said you're done.
Yeah. It's all about, what are you willing to do under the circumstances? How are you willing to step up? So when I was asked by Brian Berg and Lisa Berg to come and work for Volhard, honestly, it was a no-brainer.
And they purchased the company from Wendy.
Yep, right. They got the company from Wendy. And Wendy's still involved. She's just,
Yeah.
she does retirement things, and she's more on the R&D side, and she works directly with myself, Brian, Lisa, in order to, move the company forward and be a sounding board for things. But otherwise, she's out of the day-to-day. That's Brian and Lisa.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about someone who so many fresh food feeders don't know her work, this woman was here, ages ago. And
yeah, it's so true. And here's how I describe it. Wendy Volhard came up with the diet in 1973.
Right.
She traveled all over the world to get the most information she could from people who own dogs that were living a long time, similar to what Karen Becker and Rodney Habib are doing, right? She came back, and despite all the adversity, she came out with this diet, which was genuinely accessible by breeders and trainers, because that was her circle.
Right.
And, this diet, 50 years, this is our 50th year. It is exactly the same, and it's still good. So here's what I will tell you, folks. Sometimes if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Absolutely true. And I mean, yes, keep an open mind.
Of
Learn
course.
everything you can, even from people you disagree with. But
Absolutely.
if it's working for your dog, that's a good thing.
Listen, there is not one diet for every single dog on this earth. Each dog is an individual, just like we as humans are individuals, and some things work and some things don't. Right. All we can give you is, this is our experience. We're sharing this with you so you can make an informed decision. But listen, we don't want anybody to be at the extremes where you're not willing anymore to listen to what experiences people have. Now, with that, it could be a rabbit hole and you could never come out of it, but there's a lot of people out there that did a lot of good work. And just because somebody new is doing work now does not negate what has been done before. And you just have to remember that. There are some, really, I mean, if that were the case, Thomas Edison, come on, the light is still relevant, right?
Yeah, history is still relevant.
Correct. So that's all I say to people is that, sometimes you got to go back to the OGs. You got to go and you got to look at what they did and see why they did it. And then figure out how that relates to your dog, right? At the end of the day, how does everything you've learned relate to your dog?
Definitely. So the Volhard product line, I mean, initially it was a recipe. Then it became the AM PM, I'm going to call it convenience plan. So you didn't have to put the ingredients together. And one of the things that I think is revolutionary about the Volhard diet is it supports the theory of separating, I'll say, the starchier components from the protein. You had your AM breakfast and your PM meat. And that's not something that a lot of other feeding plans do.
Yeah. So in the original diet, it accounted for intermittent fasting. That's not new, guys. Just because somebody new saying it doesn't make it new.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay that they're saying it because it might have gotten lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
But intermittent fasting has been around for thousands of years. So it's not new. What Wendy did was she incorporated that into the Volhard diet with the idea. Yeah.
This was the schedule. And you see down here, day 7
was a fast day.
Was a fast day. And that's, this is from the 80s.
Yeah. So, intermittent fasting is important. Now, we don't fast puppies and we don't fast sick dogs and we don't always fast senior dogs, depending on what their health status is, because sometimes that works against your dog. Like, for example, one of my dogs, if they don't eat, they get empty stomach, right? We all have had that. And then we have some bilious vomiting that happens because we are empty 100%, right? For too long. Gets a little too acidic in there. So, but if you have a dog that can do it, it's so great to have that intermittent fasting piece because it allows the body to focus on getting rid of toxins. sending out the sweep cleaning service and getting rid of dead cells and things that aren't working in the body. And it allows the body to calm. So the kidneys aren't working 100% of the time. The gallbladder, the pancreas, the adrenals aren't working 100% of the time, right? It gives a way that the body calms down. So, fasting is a good thing. Now, some people don't like fasting because they feel like they're starving their dog, and their dogs really can be drama queens and make them feel like, really bad about it. So what Wendy has always taught us to do is to use your intermittent fasting time overnight. Yeah. So it's kind of like keto, guys. You eat within an 8-hour period. And then you have your long-term fast overnight while the dog's sleeping and they're not anticipating having food anyway, right? So you're not being cruel to them. However, you are allowing the body to stabilize out. That is super important. So the AM/PM diet is a really interesting one. And it separates, just like you said, all of the carbohydrate from all of the protein. Well, there is a little bit of carbohydrate and, wheat products that are in the evening meal, but the bulk of the carbohydrates are fed in the morning, or you can flip-flop it. So if your dog does better and carbohydrates are better in the evening, you don't have to feed breakfast and dinner. You can flip-flop it. But what it does do is it allows the body to focus on what it's digesting in that moment, right? And it makes things simpler. Who does that help? A dog that's recovering from an illness or injury, who's already having a tough time. And digestion becomes a really laborious process for that dog. It's sometimes really good for senior dogs who over time have less enzyme activity. Right. We're supporting that enzyme activity, I hope, as that dog gets older. But, making something easier, more digestible, just adds to the support and being kind to that dog, right? The other thing about the AM/PM diet, honestly, is that it's our most tailorable diet. You add the vegetable, you add the yogurt or kefir, and then you, again, as with our other diets, you get to choose your meat protein. Right. And we always recommend 1 day a week you come off of muscle meat. This is with all of our diets. And you feed a alternate protein such as cottage cheese or fish, which is not as hard to digest and to process with the kidneys. And you lower that nitrogen level and you give those kidneys a bit of a break. I will tell you, all the diets that Volhard has are so complex, from the type of ingredients that's in them and why they're chosen, to the energy levels that are present, because we use as a guide Chinese medicine and 5-element theory. So we take into account the energy levels of proteins and carbohydrates and where your pHs are and what season it is and how you should be feeding, okay? We take all of that in, so it's energetically balanced. And this is a lot more complex than a lot of companies take their food to the next level. They just some companies will slap their stuff together because those ingredients are the fad of the time. Everybody says to have sulforaphane in your diet. So next thing you know, everyone's got broccoli because, they're not actually looking at the characteristics of broccoli, what the energy level does to the overall meal. They don't look at the proteins that they're choosing and what that does energetically to the whole meal. They don't look at any of that. We do. We want to make sure that when you're feeding a diet, it is fairly neutral in energy, so that you can then play with the heats and the coolness by changing up proteins, by adding certain kinds of vegetables. But where everything else stands. And that's, not just ingredients slapped together. Yeah, that's huge. And, I think we've probably said carbohydrate more in these few minutes. I know. Anybody who's discussing fresh food or raw feeding. And yes, people, there is a role for carbs. I know I'm going to take the heat for saying that, but I think sometimes we restrict carbs more than we have to, and sometimes to the detriment of some dogs. So carbs are not evil. They need to be thoughtfully considered.
but they are not evil. And we're not talking about feeding 40% carbs like would be in a kibble. But we are talking about, maybe instead of 5% carbs, maybe 15. And that is just fine.
I mean, we had this discussion the other day, Lori, when we were talking about synthetics.
Yeah.
When you guys look at food that you're thinking about choosing, the first place that you should go is start counting synthetic vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. Yeah. And, Karen Becker says this all the time. You're up 20 plus synthetic vitamins. You should have the expectation that your dog is getting their nutrition from synthetic vitamins. Mm-hmm. Because if the first 4 or 5 ingredients that are in that food provided a full suite of nutrition, they would not have to add those synthetic vitamins, guys.
Exactly
right. They're adding it because when they did the test, it came up short.
Yeah.
So there it is. Or they're adding it because
that is destroying things.
Right. They're, it's also, they're adding it because, I say taurine, for example. Mm-hmm. Just because you throw synthetic taurine into the list of things does not make it a good food because it's got taurine in there. Right. You know what I'm saying? So we don't want our dogs to get nutrition from synthetics. Now, I will say that some vitamins and minerals are extremely fragile. And if we want the food to last more than an hour and a half, sometimes we have to fortify those with some synthetic vitamins so that we're sure that it's giving what it should give, right? That's okay. What I'm saying is, you have less than 10 synthetic vitamins. That's a much different food than a food with 20 plus synthetic vitamins. Right. And then I'm going to tell you folks, here's where the carbohydrate is the terrible word of the day. If you can choose herbs and oils and vegetables and grains that have digestibility for the dog in their appropriate amount, and you can support the vitamins and minerals that need to be contained in that food through a whole food source versus a synthetic, then I'm going to tell you guys, I would rather go with a carbohydrate choice, a good one, than throw a bunch of synthetics at my dog.
Right. Right.
It is the better choice at the end of the day.
I definitely think so. And especially with vegetables. And
with some vegetables.
I guess I'll lump squashes and stuff in with vegetables and even sweet potatoes. We're getting fiber. We're nourishing the microbiome. Right. We're getting some of those key vitamins. And that is much more beneficial to the dog coming from there than it is from, some laboratory or China source.
And remember, isolates don't work the same as something that is a part of a bigger picture. Our bodies are a network of interchangeable connections that when we go to digest something, there are all these cofactors and enzymes and all these things that come along with whatever your body's trying to digest. When you isolate those ingredients out, when you create a synthetic that is pure this or pure that, all of the cofactors and enzymes and other nutrient-based properties that we know or don't know about, it changes the way it works in the body, guys. It changes the way it works. You cannot mimic nature without it being natural.
Yeah. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I don't know who said that.
That's why I say go to a whole food choice because it's going to carry with it enzymes and live cofactors and all these things that the body really needs. And I liken it to a triangle. I say this all the time. Think about it as an iron triangle, okay? If you pull one corner of the triangle, the rest of the triangle shape changes. There's no way to pull on one corner and not change it. That's what the body is, guys. You cannot pull on one part of it and not change something else. Just look at the mineral balance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So we have 3 diets. That's where we were before.
I was just drawing a blank.
Yeah. You brought up AM/PM. We got our next oldest diet that we've had is the NDF2, and that's because everybody cried and said, I don't want to add my own vegetable. I don't want to add my own yogurt. I want it to just come, and then I want to be able to mix it with some meat and move on. So Wendy created the NDF2, which
Mm-hmm.
we have expanded over time to have different liver, frozen, freeze-dried liver.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually take real advantage of the nutritional portfolio that each liver offers, which is slightly different.
Right.
And you can have, there is a difference between poultry and then from red meat, like there's differences. So diversity, back to our original thing, both of those diets, the AM/PM diet, the NDF2 diet, allow you to choose the quality of meat and which meat source you would like to choose. The great part about that is that you don't have to change foods because you need to change proteins.
Right.
Makes it super easy.
And you can vary the fat level, which is
Absolutely
going to help potentially some of those dogs that are harder to keep weight on.
Exactly. And those kidney dogs and those diabetic dogs and
Right.
the dogs that are, making stones and the dogs that are having skin and coat issues. There is a way using the Volhard diet that you can tailor some of these ingredients in order to meet the needs of the dog. Now, I will tell you our diets have carbs. They're not carb free. So if you have a dog with cancer and you're really trying to overcome something like that, this may not be the choice. However, when I talk to clients, sometimes it's a balance of lifestyle too. There's just so much that they can do. So we create a very low carb choice so that they can still live a reasonable lifestyle, but try to maintain, as little of a trigger as they possibly can for recurrence.
Right.
So, this is what makes this diet extremely flexible. Our rescue diet is our functional food diet. It is, they're all functional food diets, but rescue really is the powerhouse. This is our hypoallergenic diet. It's our gluten-free diet. It's our grain-free diet. It's got a beautiful amino acid portfolio in it. I mean, honestly, you don't have to worry about any kind of other issues with, amino acids and protein levels. However, we have done so much testing with really sick dogs with the rescue diet to stay away from triggers. Okay, you have a dog that's suffering. The last thing you want to do is introduce a bunch of synthetics, a bunch of hard to digest vegetables, a bunch of vegetables that are known allergens on every test that comes back.
Right.
And you want to simplify. So that's what we've done. There's 5 vegetables, there's oils, there's herbs, there's everything that's in there is to control blood sugar levels, so that you're not spiking, your dog's not spiking, big highs, low lows, everything stays on an even keel. When a dog is sick, having big swings of metabolic energy is not what you want.
Definitely not.
You don't want that.
And for the microbiome.
Right. And then
keeping everything very similar so you're not shifting populations of bacteria and such. There have been a couple good questions that came through that I want to just pause.
Spectacular, yeah.
So Janet asks if you offer samples.
Janet, great question. So we used to offer samples. And what we found is that most people couldn't really get an idea about the diet in a 2-ounce sample. I mean, it was just really hard. And mostly because those folks had large dogs, which didn't even make a meal. It's really hard. A diet versus a supplement. Now we have samples for, small packages for supplements, but we don't have, for diet, it's really hard. So what I recommend is the easiest way. NDF2 is our most popular diet because it's our most convenient diet. You add meat and water, you stir it, you go on. There's a 2-pound bag version of that. You can get a 2-pound bag version of that. You can actually make a couple of meals. If you have a really large dog, I would go with a 5-pound version of that so that you could experience it for a couple of days. Now, I will say this, if your dog is eating 100% kibble and you just throw fresh food at your dog, therein lies another conundrum where you don't want to come back and say, well, your food gave my dog the craps. Well, of course it did, because you changed foods on a dime. It wouldn't even matter if you changed kibbles. Sometimes even if you change kibbles on a dime, your dog's digestive tract is going to go, oh, whoa, I don't know what ingredients those are, but I don't like them. I think I'm going to get them out. So what I would suggest to you is if you would like to try it, what we have is a temporary diet that we offer online. It gives you the ingredients of a temporary NDF2 diet. And you could make some of those ingredients and introduce them to your dog and just get your dog acclimated to eating fresh food. Yeah. And then give our diet a try. That's the only time that it becomes an issue is when it's 100% kibble transferring over. Now, if you feed fresh right now, I would say get a 2-pound bag, get a 5-pound bag, and give it a go. You'll have no trouble transitioning. Your dog's body is already used to eating fresh food, and you'll have a good experience.
Yeah. And, if you're looking for the original recipes, I didn't bring my copy of the Holistic Guide to a Healthy Dog, but you've got one. Hop on Amazon or go to your favorite bookstore. This is a classic. The whole diet, everything that was in this crude book, is polished and explained in that. So you can see the actual AM/PM recipe and try it.
Yeah, I mean, when Wendy first made this recipe, guys, she wasn't looking to make money. She gave it away.
She gave it away, and she was feeding her own dogs.
Correct.
And together with a veterinarian, Dr. Carrie Brown, she was following along with blood tests and physical exams and essentially doing what would exceed an AFCO feeding trial.
Oh, gosh, yes. And now, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, we have 50 years. We have lifetimes of dog information. We have whole lifetimes of Volhard eating dogs, 13, 14 generations at times. We, having been around for so long, we follow up on all that. We have our own dogs that are on this food. I'm going to tell you, this is how I talk to my veterinarian. Listen, don't listen to me. Look at all the tests that you have from 9 years of looking at all of my dogs. You tell me where I've gone wrong.
Yeah.
And you can't. Exactly. Because it comes out pristine. My dog's body, proportioning, pristine. Eyes bright. Bones strong. I do hair tissue mineral analysis on my dog. I do microbiome tests on my dog. I do intolerance tests on my dog. I do these tests so that I can help my customers.
Right.
By experiencing them. By walking in their shoes. So that when I get on a consultation with somebody, I can say to them, this has been my experience. Let me help you read your results. I become a true partner that way.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of your job is providing support for people and the whole team. Shadon asked me if you can show the book again.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Now there's 2 versions of this book. This is the second version.
Right.
The first version is a purple covered hardcover book. Yeah. I will tell you, it's a great book. It's just a little bit more academic than this book. This book is a little more layperson friendly, this edition.
But the recipe is the same in both of them.
Yep, it is. So and there are other nuggets of excitement in this book, you guys. You want to know why it's sitting on my desk right here? Because Wendy teaches you how to do kinesiology. She goes through homeopathy. She talks about acupressure and acupuncture points. She talks about how to understand your blood work from your veterinarian and what to do if certain values are higher or lower. This stuff is priceless. If you don't agree with feeding Volhard and carbohydrate levels, that's not just what's in this book.
Yeah, there's kinesiology in that book. There's iridology. There's all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, it really is. It really,
I think that, we should do one of these on what books should be on your shelf. That book needs to be on your shelf.
It does.
Just like Billinghurst, just like Tom Lonsdale's, just like Connor
Brady. Yep.
There are such an array of amazing thinkers in this field that you should read them all. So, Janet had another question. Sorry, guys. It was a long morning at the office.
Which formula would I suggest for a dog with GERD? I'm really glad you brought that up, Janet, because I have had that experience, actually. My hound, out of the blue, started regurgitating and started with the bilious vomiting thing. And I ended up down this road because of, nobody wants their dog to be sick, but I'm going to tell you that when they are, it helps me be better at my job, unfortunately, because then I get to experience it and then I get to help others, what I found, and you are going to laugh. So my formula that I use in the interim crisis mode is the rescue diet because it's anti-inflammatory. We have tested that. We've done inflammatory testing before you started the diet, did the diet for X number of weeks, and then tested after to see if inflammation had in fact been reduced. And VPI does inflammatory testing. You can have your vet pull blood for it. So we did the tests. I used the rescue. I used cooling proteins. And I really, really simplified. When I say cooling proteins, I'm talking whitefish, rabbit, duck. I stuck in those spaces. I used that with the rescue. I did that for 6 weeks just to suck the inflammation out of whatever was happening. I also used inner leaf aloe and I made her drink it so that if there were esophageal ulcers, that would start to heal those. I used Manuka honey, right? So listen, the onion is a complex thing, right? You have to peel it back. So the food I started with was the baseline foundation. Then I use some supplements, pump up those omega-3s. Let's get that inflammation out of there. Use antioxidants, right? Allow those ulcerations to heal wherever they are in the system. And then now we're on NDF2. Now she has since healed. The burping stopped. The gurgly stomach stopped. Now I'm going to give you, this is a tip. Now, this is a Jennifer Carter tip. If you go get, there's a bread that is a, oh gosh, I'm at a loss for words, but it is a sprouting, a sprout bread.
Spelt?
No, it's Ezekiel bread.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's in the freezer and it's sprouted grains. It's not a grain-based bread, but it's sprouted grains, which are much more digestible. I would, in the evenings before bed, I would toast a piece of that bread and cut it up into squares, and I would let my dog eat that before bed. And I would give that to my dog in the morning, 1 or 2 squares of toast in the morning with nothing on it to soak up the acid in the stomach and then feed 15 or 20 minutes later. I'm going to tell you that worked wonders for her.
Interesting.
There's my tip of the day.
Tip of the day. Well, we're going to interrupt this show for just a minute.
Okay. A word from our sponsor?
A word from our inspiration. Happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday, Rodney Habib. I see you.
Yes. I think I saw a picture on Facebook of you feeding a cat.
I did see that too.
And I hope you're having a great day. And it's much warmer where you are than where we are. So, and thank you for all you do. All of us second it.
Props.
Yes, definitely. All right. So, the Jennifer Carter tip of the day. There
it is. Ezekiel bread. I bet you never thought somebody would say that,
no,
right?
But,
there you go.
You make me want to research it more because what does the sprouting do? I always think of anytime we feed our dogs, we're stimulating acid production, but what's the interaction?
Well, it's also fibrous, right? It's also higher in fiber.
Yeah.
So, that it just helps to, create an alkaline environment where there might be one that is too acid to begin with, right?
And just everything settles down afterward.
And if you have that, weakness right there where the stomach meets the esophagus and things are coming back up, that's also positional. Take a look at after you feed your dog, maybe you go for a nice walk after so that, walks aid in digestion, just like they do in humans. Don't let your dog lay down right after they have a full stomach. Go for I'm not saying go for a sprint, guys. I'm saying go for a nice, easy walk to help aid in digestion, move things, right?
Definitely. Definitely. And again, one of the reasons we're such advocates of variety and diversity is we find out what works for the individual dog. Because
Right.
unlike the kibble philosophy, which is, we'll make this thing and it will work for all dogs. We want to feed dogs as individuals.
And here's a point that I really want to make, you guys.
Tailor everything we do to that dog's individual needs, whether they're healthy or have a health challenge.
Here's something I think is super important. Is the company that you're feeding from reactive or proactive? And I'm going to say this because all these diets that go to the vet offices are reactive diets. It means your dog is already sick, and what you're doing is managing illness, right? Are we fixing it? No. We're managing illness. It's reactive, guys. Mm-hmm. What is Volhard dog nutrition? We are proactive. If you feed this food, our intended consequence is that your dog is healthy, that we have fixed the root cause of whatever was happening, and your dog goes on to live a healthy life and to eat normally. We're not maintaining disease, you guys. Even when you come to me and you say, well, Jennifer, my dog is making stones. The first thing I'm going to do to work with you is let's stop your dog from making stones to begin with. Right? Yeah. I'm not going to say to you, let's just have them make less stones. No, let's get to the root cause. Why is your dog even doing this? Right. Why is your dog's kidneys under duress? And proactive thinking, guys, is going to beat reactive response every single time.
And I would go even one beyond reactive. And I think the classic example is dry food diets for cats that are prone to urinary tract infections, crystals, stones. I'll pick out, many companies have them. CD is the one that comes to mind at this moment. So great. They maintain the urine pH in a certain zone that research has shown is optimal. That's great. It will do that. But at the same time, it's dry. So the urine concentration never changes. They do have a canned product, but in my experience, most owners don't choose it.
Right.
And the fat level is such that now the cat is getting chubby, and we have all the problems of that leading to urinary tract problems as well, such as if they obstruct, if they're males, we can't get a catheter in because you can't find the part.
Right. Right.
So you've just traded one problem for another at best.
Well, that's how I feel about, hydrolyzed diets. There's a place for crisis mode. When your animal's in crisis, you're going to do what you need to do to get out of crisis. However, that's a short-term strategy. That is not a long-term strategy. Hydrolyzed proteins are a short-term strategy. They are not a long-term strategy, because what you do is what you just said. You trade one problem for another. And I can't tell you how many dogs that I have that have been put on hydrolyzed diet for an extended period of time. And because there's not enough protein in the diet, other things are breaking. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have an 18-year-old dog, okay, maybe there's not a whole lot of time left on this earth. But if you have a 3-year-old dog on a hydrolyzed diet, I got problems with that, guys. I got problems with that long term. I know they're going to love me after this, right? All the hydrolyzed people, they're going to love me. Yeah. Hey, come talk to me and I'll talk to you about how to fix it.
Yeah. Well, and your point about there is a crisis mode.
Yes.
I completely agree. And there is a time where I'm going to reach for an antibiotic. There is a time I'm going to reach for prednisone. Yes, prednisone.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm going to be doing supportive things and already planning how I'm going to taper or discontinue those drugs and have strategies in place that help the animal cope. But there are times to reach for metronidazole. But everyone gets very scared about these medications. And of course, we all want to minimize the use. The foundation of that.
There's the piece right there. Listen, if you don't, this is like the human space. That medicine will work if you haven't abused it. Yeah. So this is why we have to just be conscientious, right? Listen, if I was talking the other day, if your dog has had worms for 3 months, it's time to put the pumpkin seeds away and to deworm your dog, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can fix things that are side effects of antibiotics, of side effects of parasites, side effects of steroids. We can fix those things in the long term. I'm 100% confident we can fix those things. But if your dog's in crisis, you need to handle your business.
Yeah.
Because the dog's health is on the line.
Sometimes you just have to
go the distance.
Process.
Sometimes, and this is the difference, okay? With diet and nutrition, we create the environment so that the dog's body can fix itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The dog's body knows what to do. We just have to create the environment for it to happen. Sometimes you need intervention, and that is through chemical intervention in order to get the system rebooted. Right. So if you think about it that way and don't feel guilty because you're going to do what's best for your dog, and I never make anybody feel guilty about this. It doesn't matter what you've done. You're here now. Let's talk about what you need to do now. And just let me know all of the medications. Let me see some blood work. Yeah. Come to us for a consultation, and we're going to have a conversation about it. And I'm going to tell you what I think would be a good long-term strategy.
Without a doubt. And I have to, here's another side thing. This is a problem.
There you go.
This is a problem with the commercial
Diane.
Commercial food industry. They get these clever names. Like now it's not corn protein or corn gluten meal, it's corn protein meal. Yeah, well, it's still freaking corn.
At the end of the day.
This Royal Canin diet, it happened to be Royal Canin that did it first, to my knowledge. Started off, they did say it was hydrolyzed chicken feathers. Then the term became poultry aggregate meal. And evidently now chicken protein is the same. Feathers, black soldier fly larvae. Hello, they're maggots. Let's call it what it is so that the average person can know what they're putting in the bowl, what they're paying for, and where it comes from.
Well, that's why I laugh. I laugh because they said, okay, cricket protein, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I have a hound that eats everything. She has never put a cricket in her mouth.
Yeah. my dogs have chase bugs. I don't know
them, but she doesn't go seek out crickets for food.
No. And I know in some cultures, insect protein is very popular. Yeah, and I can understand that it would be responsible for the environment.
Of course.
But they're still, now we're farming bugs.
Yeah, it's weird. Everything's weird. I can't even think about it. But listen, maybe this is their attempt at Chinese medicine, curing like with like.
Maybe.
We're going to stop your allergy to chicken feathers by feeding enough chicken feathers. This is like, I wonder if this works with peanut butter too. We just take a bunch of really allergic people to peanut butter and we just give them peanut butter Girl Scout cookies and see what happens.
Oh God. I was on social media growing up in the Catskills in Liberty, New York. Our school, especially the elementary schools, had the wonderful lunch ladies. And that was in the day when the lunch ladies actually made the lunch. Right. They were back there doing the soup and making the sandwiches. We served on Thursdays, we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We actually served them to the children. The peanut butter was great. It wasn't all hydrolyzed or whatever, but they made peanut butter cookies. And periodically the recipe for those circulates. They were the best peanut butter cookies known to mankind. And the recipe was going around over the weekend. And everybody's like, do you remember Mrs. O'Hearn made the cookies? And now those kids could never have that in school.
You can't even bring in like cupcakes for somebody's birthday anymore. You got to bring in, I don't know, something very healthy. You're not even allowed to be unhealthy anymore.
Yeah. And can't contain any sort of nuts.
At the end of the day, you end up bringing in like a piece of Formica for everyone to suck on for a half an hour.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I get you, Diane. I feel your pain. I don't understand it. I once went to a convention and they had a whole bunch of different dry foods. And I literally went around and took pictures of all the ingredients. And one of the dry food companies had, by the breed kind of dry food. And they must have hated me because I put up 4 different breeds worth of dry foods and they were the exact same ingredients. And I was confused by that. I was confused by that. You just fed more or less, like you didn't feed, obviously, your Great Dane the same amount of food as a Chihuahua, but the ingredients were exactly the same.
Well,
so what
maybe,
makes that good?
Maybe they tweak the vitamins and minerals. We don't know.
I don't get it. It's all very confusing. And I can only imagine what you guys are going through because there's so many choices. This brings us to, why would you feed Volhard, right? What makes Volhard different than any of the other choices that you've got, and this brings us back to our original conversation about diversity. The best thing I think Volhard does right from the get-go for anybody that's looking to cross over from a dry food space to a fresh food space, but they're not yet ready to make their own food. They're not yet ready to figure out which brand of frozen raw they want to go to. They don't know what their dog can tolerate or not. I think the greatest space for Volhard to be is right there at that transition period, because we've done all this hard work for you to make sure that your dog has a balanced diet, that you're not going to sleep wondering if you're creating a deficiency or not. It allows you to use muscle meat that you buy in your food store instead of having to harvest organs and grind, a half rack of lamb with the bone in your kitchen. Not all families are ready for that right off the bat. No one's just going to get up that morning and throw a half rack of, a carcass into their backyard and say, and thou shalt eat. So Volhard plays a nice role there because you get the safety and security of a good company and a good product. You get the safety and security of a well-balanced meal, and you still get to tinker with it so that you can add vegetables. You can find a quality of meat that's meaningful to you.
To what your dog responds best to.
Right. You add water. It's a hydrated diet. Yeah. You rehydrate the dehydrated mix. You stir it and feed it in 4 or 5 minutes. It's a fresh diet. The kidneys are getting flushed. The fresh food and enzymes, whole food choices. You don't have to source things off the bat. It gives you time to figure out who you are as a feeder, right?
Right. Because some people are total DIYers.
Of course.
And that's great. And this is a stepping stone to that. And other people are like, I need convenience. And, this is a little bit of work to my way of thinking.
Right.
But, and if you're traveling, it's easy.
Right. You pack, literally a 5-pound bag of our dehydrated product is equal to a 40-pound bag of kibble. Right. Talk about space saver. If you're living in Manhattan, a 40-pound bag of kibble is like a size of a bedroom, basically. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to climb over that to answer your front door. So I lived in New York, I know. Yeah. So this is a great stepping stone. Now, we have had DIY feeders come the other way, where at the end of the day, their life circumstances have changed and they don't want to spend that time prepping anymore. They don't want to spend their whole Sunday chopping stuff up, or they have the storage issues, or they're traveling, or their dog is a different age now, or whatever that looks like. So you know what? Volhard is there on the whole scope of timeline of your dog's life. We're always here for you on the beginning end, on the ending end. We're there in the middle. I've had a lot of people come to us and say, Wendy told me about Volhard and I didn't change because I wasn't ready. And now my dog is really sick. And now I feel terrible because I should have done this 6 months ago. It doesn't matter, guys. When you come to us, you're here now. I'm going to help you. Melissa's going to help you. Brian and Lisa Berg, the owners of this company, want your dog to live as long as it's here and wants to be here. So we're all going to jump in and we're going to help you at whatever stage you are. Okay, so this is not about shaming anyone. This is about you coming ready. And I've had people go away and say, I'm not ready. And they listened to their vet and they did what their vet asked them to do. And they hit a brick road. Okay. They hit a wall. And then they turned around and said, I'm ready. And I said, great. I'm glad you're here. That's what I say. Thanks for giving us another, shot at it. Listen, this is what I'll tell you. Why would you switch to Volhard? Well, all the ingredients in our food is something you can recognize, except for whatever's mixed with liver, because that all becomes brown. In crayons, you know, you have all these colors and then you mix brown and then it's brown. Everything's brown. So once you add liver, everything's brown, in case you're wondering why that is. Everything, all the ingredients are recognizable. And on our website, we put on there ingredients in depth information. So if you want to know why something is in our food, go read it. If that doesn't answer your question, come to our live chat, talk to our nutritionist. It's usually myself or Melissa that's on there, and we'll get to the bottom of it for you. You know, our food allows you to add your own protein. It allows you to rotate proteins. Mm-hmm. It gives you, the consumer, control over quality and freshness. So you have a big option series right there on what you're putting in your dog's food. And we're like a hybrid diet, okay? So we're minimally processed base mix. But I'm going to tell you guys, all the ingredients that are in our base mix have to be minimally processed in order for the dog to actually digest them. So even if you were making this diet by yourself, you shouldn't be feeding your dog raw vegetables. You should be processing them at some minimal level, whether you're chopping them or you're steaming them or you're roasting them, in order for your dog to get the best benefit. If you're feeding grains, you are not just shoveling raw grains into your food, into your diet. You have to prepare them. So everything that's in our dehydrated base is dehydrated at a cold dehydration process, which means it's not cooked, overheated.
Right.
The vegetables are not denatured, but they are minimally processed. And that is a requirement for digestibility for those specific ingredients. What is raw is the meat. What is gently cooked, if that's your choice, is the meat.
Yeah.
So you see, you can still feed a really fresh bowl that's appropriate. You know, that's calorically dense. And that's what our food is. You feed smaller meals because the calories are there and the dogs don't have to eat 3 times their weight in order to get in what they're supposed to, right? So here's the fun part about that. Less poop. I know you guys are, come on, that's got to be a winning item, because I watched a dog recently for a friend of mine, and that dog's stool was so voluminous, I could have made another dog out of it. And they went 3-4 times a day.
I had a cat poop in its carrier today.
Gosh.
The cat weighed probably 8 pounds. The poop looked like it came out of a Labrador.
Oh my.
Like, oh God, it was awful. It was awful. But no, the indigestibility of processed food, that was obvious.
Taking in so much food. Sometimes it's just taking in so much food. The body can't do it.
Without a doubt.
You know, I don't know what to say. Listen, when I was trying to gain weight when I was younger, you guys can all start laughing. You know, I was trying to gain weight, and it's just as hard to do that as to lose weight, because when your body is efficient in your metabolism, whatever it doesn't need to survive, it sends on its way. And it does that for the dog too. If it doesn't need it, it sends it on its way, and which is why you get this voluminous poop.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't know we were going to talk about poop today.
See, poop. We always have to do. We talked about carbohydrates and poop. This is exciting, right?
Yes.
What else can we talk about that's contentious?
Only here. Only at the expo.
This, guys, I'm telling you, we are not afraid to take the gloves off and get in on these conversations, you know, up to the shoulder. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it was asked before, you are coming to the expo, obviously.
We are. We're going to have a table. I will show up in all kinds of places. We could do like a Where's Waldo for Where's Jennifer.
Oh, that could be fun.
Yeah. See that?
Yeah.
And you can come with all of your questions and concerns, and I would be more than wanting to sit with you anytime during the conference and talk to you, and you can ask me questions. You can bounce ideas off of me. We can talk. Listen, if Volhard isn't the food for your dog, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, because I'm on your dog's team. I want your dog to be healthy and happy. And I'm not going to be the one that can't sleep at night because I'm trying to make a square fit in a round peg. Not going to work.
No, it's not going to happen.
Nope. We're a very honest, open company. And you should expect that from any company you work with. But I mean, I know what I can bring to the game, and that's ethics and transparency. As you heard from Brian Berg this past week, this is who we are. This is who we are.
Yeah, and what we do and how we do it.
So, and that's why we have live chat so that you can come and ask. That's why we have consultation, opportunities. Myself, I do them. Melissa Robertson does them. Melissa's working on her Chinese medicine practitioner certification and acupuncture. We have a lot to bring to the game, you guys. That we constantly are learning. We're constantly bettering ourselves. I do this all day. I hear about dog nutrition problems all day, every day. So I am in a great position to help you.
Yes.
This is my space,
and you have the experience to do so.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. As you can tell, I hate it a lot, but I enjoy it. My spouse always says, can we go anywhere without somebody taking you to the side and talking to you about their dog problems? And I said, I don't think so.
No, realistically, no, doesn't happen.
I try to, be undercover and be mainstream, but somebody always finds out at some point in the night that I am a nutritionist. And the next thing you know is I just have this quick question. Is there such a thing? A quick question?
No,
I don't know if there is. I was just honored in speaking at the International Association of Canine Professionals, and I did a whole talk about nutrition and behavior. So if anybody's interested in that, I am more than willing to talk about that too. I love how nutrition affects behavior in dogs, not people, just in dogs.
Yeah, I'm sure it affects people as well.
It does, but then I can usually just give them some kind of candy bar, and in 20 minutes, we're in a whole new place.
Pretty much.
Can't do that with the dog so much. Not so much.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Has everybody, I'm going to throw out a question to you guys in TV land. Has anybody gone to the Build-A-Bowl capability that we just added to our website, or our calorie counter that we added? Anybody? Woo!
I think we were able to show it on screen. I'm not sure. I don't know if Chrome is letting me share screen.
Here's a really interesting way to go about this, right? So we put this calorie counter out onto our page because we think about food calorically. This is the way humans eat. This is the way your dog is eating a fresh diet. It's caloric basis. It's not dry matter basis, guys. You're not talking about kibble here. Calories, right? So how many calories should your dog have? Estimate in a day. Go to our calorie counter, put your information in there. It'll tell you how many calories, that's diet and treats in the course of a day. Then you go to our diet pages. Our diet pages give you our caloric information. You can easily do a little math, although maybe you can't do math, but try to find a friend who does do math, because that's fun. So you have to find friends that augment your capabilities. So you have your math friend, and you give this to them, and you say, tell me how much Volhard I should feed if my dog should have this many calories in a day. And then voila, you can compare that to our chart, our feeding chart, and you can come in on where your dog falls out in a regular course of feeding based on calories, right? And you can take it one step further for our nerds. That's me. I'm your nerd. I'm your nutrition nerd. I actually have a calorie monitor that's on my dog, and I have an estimate of how many calories she burns in a day. So now I can take this one step further, not because I like math, because I don't, but I love the subject matter, and I love to manage her weight by the amount of calories in versus the amount of energy she's expending. And then it gives me a swath of the area I need to be for my dog to maintain ideal weight. So this is why we put this up on the website, you guys. I hope you go and you really check it out, because it doesn't matter if you feed Volhard or not. The capability is not based on Volhard. It's based on scientific process and equations that are available through the university system and the veterinary system. And it's based all on that, which is transferable to whatever you're feeding, as long as they've told you your caloric information.
Right.
And then boom, you're off to the races. So, there's a fun Sunday afternoon, rainy day thing to do. You're welcome. Or if you're having trouble sleeping, You're welcome.
There you go. There you go. Well, Jen, I can't thank you enough for taking time off from your afternoon to be with us.
I loved being here.
It's
Do
been
you have
great.
any last questions? Anything? I see that Melissa's been answering a ton of them. Thank you.
Melissa's been working hard behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
The main answer to any question is to reach out through your website.
Yes.
And take advantage of the live chat or schedule a call with either you or Melissa. You're so available.
Absolutely. And, our main office fields simple questions.
Sure.
If it becomes more complex, obviously, then you're going to get referred to somebody who can better answer your question. But I mean, honestly, this is a really versatile diet. Consider it in your rotation of foods. Diversity is where we started today. I'm going to end on the diversity, pitch. You should not just feed one food forever, especially if that food is not tailorable. You should be able to rotate proteins. You should be able to introduce different sources of grains, non-GMO always, human edible if you can, organic if you can and it's appropriate. Stay away from synthetics. You never know what you can learn from diversifying. So please consider including Volhard. We'll help you. We're here for you. This is a family-owned company. We love educating our clients. You are family to us. Let us be a part of your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you again. And we will see you at the expo. Guys, if you don't have your expo tickets, healthydogexpo.com, and come check out Jen and all of our other amazing sponsors and our amazing speakers. We'll see you, I hope, in May. Take care, everybody.
Bye everybody.